think things have to have utility and provide value to exist, and for any sort of long period of time. And because humans are humans and the world's changing, they need to constantly be in evolution. And the places where we're going to learn about where that evolution needs to happen is with the people that are using it. So, I mean, again, it seems really obvious when you say it out loud, but organizations don't necessarily operate that way.
No.
They think about perfecting a thing, putting it out there and selling it to the broadest possible audience, which is good, but you have to have a constant idea of like how is this going to evolve and change in the future, and how am I making sure that I'm ultimately valuable to them, that the consumer isn't just valuable to me.
See, in that, let's flip the script on that. In between the client and the agency these days, you know, I've seen in the past where it's very much hard lines, like you're the marketing agency, you guys are the PR agency, you guys are this agent. I've seen it more and more where people are approaching saying, why can't you just do this stuff for me? Like, why do I have to go and get a different group to come in and do this thing? Whereas before it seemed very normal to have these lines between where we don't cross and where we don't. And have you seen that change over the years?
Well, I think it goes in, it's sort of secular. So you saw it not too long ago. There was, when sort of the digital boom happened, there was a ton of fragmentation. And there's a bunch of articles and books about this, but like, because there was a lot of different sort of specialists out there, right? So you didn't want to go to your sort of one agency to do all your digital work because they didn't have the competency. So you wanted to be able to hire the best, you know, website company and the best ad agency and the best whatever. So it was fragmentation, and that happened for a long time. And then, but as everybody sort of got better at it and tools became easier, like Squarespaces and WordPress and blah, 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 just as examples, you started to see consolidation again. And I actually think that you're seeing that now, especially with like the challenges in the economy or whatever in the last few years, that people are looking for consolidation again. And so that's why you see a bunch of organizations buying each other up, you know. But there still is a need. But that, again, I think that is around just communications and sort of marketing. You still need a lot of partners outside of that group, outside of like,
for sure,
you know, agencies.
Well, you said it. You need specialists in certain areas. You need people, and when you say specialists, I'm guessing you're meaning like deliberate, direct experience in solving that problem, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, like, you know, it's really hard to have to employ like amazing data scientists as well as like economists and like you know, people that build retail displays or people that understand, you know, how to make a pizza. Like, you're probably just not going to have those people in our agency.
Just sitting there on staff.
Yeah. But being set up to be able to work with those people really well in a way that does make it easy for the client is super important. And that's another thing that we're thinking about right now, is this sort of like idea of like, how do we create more of a network of privately owned independent companies that can sort of fill in each other's gaps. But in order to do that, you know, you have to have things like shared values, and you need to understand how people work, and it can't be just like we're just going to buy up all the best names out there, because I don't think that works. I think they have to share something more fundamental than just existence, you know. So but yeah, that's another thing we're thinking about right now, trying to figure out like, how do we pull together a really solid sort of way to approach those bigger dynamic problems in a more seamless fashion. But so under you know, in the works right now, I guess.
That's cool.
But,
yeah. No, I know we've talked about it before, because I think and Foundry works very similar, is that we definitely know where when we cross into territory that we shouldn't be. And the more and more we hit those points, we strive to find people that we can bring in to help solve that problem. Because to your point, and I think you've learned this too, you don't want to be just the best problem solver for your client. You want to be the best resource as well. Like Dave, I need somebody who can like build this app, but I also, you know, I'd like my driveway repaved. Do you have any, you know, like I would love to be able to help them answer that question.
For sure. Yeah. No, I think it was exactly the same way. We know what we're good at. We know what we aren't good at. And we don't pretend to be anything that we're not, you know, but having having those relationships, and that's a really good way of putting it, like being a really good resource. Like, no, like that's the producer in me that I love being able to do that. Like if someone's like, hey, do you got a guy?
Yeah,
you
got a guy.
You know, like that old joke is great. I love it when I'm like, yeah, weirdly I do.
Yeah,
you know, someone that does this. But actually being able to collect the, you know, bring like sort of united sort of group together to solve like a big hairy problem that way. That's exciting. You know, because I think that's what we're just trying to do is solve. You know, it's just the sort of those problems that people are just like, there's nobody. Who do you call for this? There's no agency. There's no group that solves this kind of thing because it's amorphous or it's strange or it's new. And that's the thing we're like, yep, that's the thing we want to solve. You know, and it could be, and we don't even have to necessarily have solved it before. You know, just like a lot of people, like it's more about how the mindset and the approach and the people that you have kind of locked arms with to go do it. You know. Versus like, yep, we have the tried and true. This is how you do innovation. Because the reality is how you do innovation for this company is totally different than how you do innovation for this company. Right. And so trying to pretend that you're going to like strong arm that organization into some process, I mean, good luck, maybe, you know. But I think what's better is to go in there and understand how that organization works and then figure out, okay, what's the innovation approach for them? And making it up with them on the fly is totally the way to do it. You know, so
it's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting down towards the end. So I want to ask you, if you were to coach somebody, I know like you said, you've had some great mentors in the past, and I know you've done a lot of mentoring yourself. And if you were to give some advice to somebody who was in a role where they had to lead, but maybe people don't report to them, or they're on a new team and they're the product manager, or they're being brought in to do an innovation team and they need to get people on board. What's a skill set? What have you found to be an important characteristic to like hone? You know, maybe it's a soft skill, maybe it's a hard skill.
Yeah.
What have you seen where you've had the most success in focusing your energies?
My buddy and I always say that it's like, you know, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. So as an example, I guess what I mean with that is there's a lot of power in going and asking for somebody's help, or like to ask them a question because they have expertise, right? And you're acknowledging that like, yeah, you're a valuable sort of resource. You have a lot of ideas. I'd love your help in this thing. Can you help me answer this? Again, sort of gives them sort of ownership over how they're going to be involved, and it acknowledges their sort of like role in it and expertise, I guess. And then I think to do that sometimes requires sort of like some vulnerability, and that's a big lesson that a lot of people need to learn. Like, it's okay to not have the answer. If you're going to roll in and be like, here, I got all this stuff planned out. This is exactly how we're going to do this innovation project. Here's everything. Here's what I need you to do. Can you do it? They're less interested. They're less engaged. But if they're like, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. I think this is cool. This is the vision for what I'm doing. I'd love your help. Like, how can you help me do it? What are your ideas? That's better. We talk a lot at Zeus about like ambitious thinking and having a lot of ambitious ideas, and ambition is super important. And one realization we have is that vulnerability is a huge part of being ambitious. Like, you need to, if you have a big vision, likely you don't know how to get there, and you have to be able to willing to admit, like, I don't have the answer yet. Can you help me figure it out? You know, I think that's a big part of it, is having a vision, but then asking for help, being vulnerable, and acknowledging like, I need you to do this with me, you know, and helping them see that they can have a big role in that and that it's exciting. And then another thing, just from like a producer side of stuff, like I found that's helpful is whenever you're like trying to get through something that's a challenge, and being less about like, no, you can't do this. We can't do it that way. We can't do it this way. It's more about like here's a different way of doing it that maybe solves XYZ problem that you have. So you're like, so if you can't do this because it's too expensive. Well, what if we did it this way? It's cheaper, lines with the brand idea better, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish, is helpful as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that
flexibility.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that what you said about that, being vulnerable. And I think that takes some self-awareness, right? You have to take a moment before you walk into that conversation and set yourself in the right frame of mind, you know, when you're going to do that. Because I see people that have challenge doing that because they're scared that what if people find out they don't know what they're doing? That's scary.
I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think like that's what's kind of exciting about it, right? Like if every day you woke up and you knew exactly what you were going to do all day, like what's the fun in that?
Right.
That's boring. And I think that's a core to the whole thing. Is like the excitement is the opportunity to experiment, right? Like that's what we get to do on Earth. I think is experiment, learn stuff, and can keep doing that forever, right? And kind of get more and more understanding of life and how people work and how things work and sort of how to like unlock opportunities. Like experimentation is what we get to do. But to experiment, like the core part of like the scientific method is to have a hypothesis, which is just I have a question, but I don't know if it's true. I don't know how to do it. Like I'm going to run some experiments. And having that mindset, I think, is important. Like I have a vision, I have a hypothesis, but what are the experiments we're going to do to get there? How can you help? How is this interesting to you? Better yet, if you have a little understanding of why it would be interesting to them, it's going to be even better to get their involvement because at least you put the time in to acknowledge, like, hey, I've at least tried to understand your context. Did I get it right? I think I think it's okay to like, have questions, acknowledge you don't know the answer because people are, I think, more willing to help answer a question when they feel like the solution isn't already done. Right. That's what goes back to my stupid thing of like, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money. Because people want to, they do want to help as long as they feel like they actually have an opportunity to have an impact on how that happens. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. So, so if people want to know more about Zeus Jones, obviously they can go to ZeusJones.com, right?
That's right.
And you guys have got a great blog there as well. You
can sign up for the monthly Bolt, our newsletter. That kind of
newsletter's
stuff.
there too. Okay, good. And then so if people want to find out more about, where's a good place to connect with Dave if they want to learn more about what Dave does or Zeus does, where's a good place to find you?
Yep, I'm I'm on all the
social
normal places on the social medias. Yep, LinkedIn, Facebook, all that stuff. But LinkedIn is usually pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, just send me an email.
Yeah.
Too. Reach out.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's cool. Well, thanks for joining me today, Dave. It was a fantastic conversation. I learned a lot.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
And there it is, my conversation with David. I definitely suggest you check out ZeusJones.com and check out their blog, too. It's great. And while you happen to be out cruising the internets, you can check out the work the team is doing over at FoundryMakes.com. That's FoundryMakes.com. Oh, somebody messaged me. Oh, it's a Slack message. Speaking of Slack, no, not speaking of Slack. Anyways, I've got Customer Focus North coming up where I'm doing a workshop with my wife. It's going to be great. She's the director of UX at Connections Loyalty. We have very different working styles, but I think it's going to be a super fun workshop. So check that out at customerfn.com and sign up because I think by the time you're listening to this, time is running out. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.